Good Monday, everybody, and welcome to Charting with Dan. I'm Dan Merle, joined by Lon Harris.
Great to be here.
Lon, it's kind of a miracle that we are here.
Yes, there was some
quite a day.
Incidents and accidents behind the scenes.
Yes, there's construction noise, but the fact that we even have a show, we'll tell you the whole story sometime.
I don't know. Are we at liberty to say?
I don't think we are.
Yeah,
Just equipment
right.
sometimes spontaneously combust.
Things happen. Listen.
Also at the spontaneously combusting, depending on who you talk to, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, which was the #1 film of the weekend, but not exactly the hit that I think Disney was expecting. So without further ado, let's look at the top 5 for this past weekend. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, expected to be the #1 film of the weekend. It was the #1 film of the weekend. It opened about half as big as the original film did 5 years ago. Also the lowest opening weekend for a Disney film this year. Lon, we've talked about Disney, and I actually did a breakdown of the different brands and stuff, but kind of a hollow victory for Disney here. $185 million budget for Maleficent.
I think that these movies have moved in a different direction. Since the first Maleficent, now they're selling these remakes on, it's the first movie, it's all the things you loved about the original, it's the songs, we're recreating it. And Maleficent doesn't do that. It's taking Sleeping Beauty in this different direction.
It's an odd direction. I'm not gonna lie.
And I think that people are like, you can still get them to come out and get them excited for that, but it's not locked in like it is for something like Lion King or Aladdin, where it's like, I know this movie, I know these characters, I know these songs, I gotta go see it.
Well, Maleficent did well 5 years ago. When it came out, the first one did. But was anyone really knocking the doors down, you think, for a sequel to the movie? Like, where do you go? That's the thing, is the first Maleficent already reinvented sort of the wheel with that character, and now it's like, it's called Mistress of Evil, but the last movie,
good in the last movie.
Yeah, it felt a little muddled. Not just watching the film, but I think in the messaging as well.
To me, I feel like stuff like this, a lot of this comes down to star power. The first Maleficent and this one, it's like, well, a lot of the appeal is that people love Angelina Jolie, and they like her in this kind of a role. It feels like a good, meaty, juicy Angelina Jolie kind of role, and like that. And it is. I mean, I read some reviews that her character is a little more sidelined this time. It's a little bit more focused on the rest of the ensemble. I think that might have hurt it, and not having her be as centrally placed in the marketing and the promotion might have hurt it. But also, I think that it's Angelina Jolie fans and Disney fans, not Maleficent fans.
Well, let's talk about Angelina Jolie fans, and let's see where this movie ranks as far as her box office driving power. So first of all, just from a pure dollars and cents angle, let's look at Angelina Jolie's top 5 debuts. As mentioned, Maleficent, the first Maleficent, is her highest opening film with almost $70 million 5 years ago, followed by Wanted, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, grouped right there together. A Lara Croft Tomb Raider not far behind. And then Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, number 5 on that list. But Lon, you've been watching the show long enough, as has everyone else, to know that the raw dollars and cents, it doesn't tell the whole story. Not only do you adjust for inflation, but we do the bits index, butts in the seats. So let's look at Angelina Jolie's top 5 films based on how many butts were sitting in those seats, based on estimated tickets sold. This is one of many wonderful stats that are available on Box Office Mojo, one of several sites that I consult to help me put this show together. So looking at it by estimated tickets sold, which sort of equalizes everything out, that changes the rankings a little bit. So Maleficent, not the #1 film based on this chart. The #1 film, if we look at that chart, is coming up in just a moment. It is. I'm going to draw this out. It's not Maleficent. It's Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Just edges out Maleficent. It sold 8.4 million tickets. The reason it's so much lower on the gross list, because obviously it came out almost 20 years ago, believe it or not. At this point, Maleficent there, I know. Maleficent there at number 2, Mr. and Mrs. Smith at number 3, Wanted at number 4, and then Gone in 60 Seconds. That's a big drop off, but then Gone in 60 Seconds, another turn of the century heist.
Dominic Sena. Bruckheimer classic.
Man, that's one of those things that people ask you, what was the early 2000s like? That's another one of those movies that I would point to. It's like, it was like that.
Swordfish and Gone in 60 Seconds, basically.
The first Fast and Furious movie.
Sum it all up. But I mean, the thing about Gone in 60 Seconds, as opposed to all those other movies, is that all those others, I mean, they have ensembles. Wanted gave us James McAvoy, but they're very Angelina Jolie focused, except Gone in 60 Seconds, which is a big Bruckheimer ensemble, like Duvall is in that, and Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can see that's from before the era where she was really the driving force behind this movie.
No pun intended.
Hey, look what I did.
Let's
ride.
Maleficent, Mistress of Evil would rank 7th on that list behind Salt.
Salt,
back in 2010
wow.
sold just a few more tickets in the opening weekend than Maleficent, Mistress of Evil.
Salt was like I remember Salt being a pretty decent hit in its moment, right?
It has sort of been lost.
Yeah.
To the ages, but it was like right down the middle.
Right.
It was like a slow pitch right down the middle. It was neither, it was not a failure, but it was also not a huge, massive breakout hit. It did pretty good.
Also, a precursor to our current era in some interesting ways, because it was going to be a male-driven. I think Tom Cruise was in there originally, and then they retconned it or changed it to suit Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. Liev Schreiber, some spy drama going on.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's a decent 2010 spy flick.
Yeah.
Lon, so Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. We've talked about this on the show about how Disney, when you look at on the face of it, they're having a massive success, enormous success. However, there is one corner of their business where they keep sort of hitting a wall. And so what I wanted to do was sort of break down their both how much they've been putting into their films and how much they've been getting out of their films. And I'm putting this in what I call the current Disney era, which would be 2015, which is the year that they launched the new Star Wars franchise. Right. It's also the year that Avengers Age of Ultron came out. It's when the MCU really, they found their footing following Guardians of the Galaxy and Winter Soldier. And when they started doing largely their live action remakes, right. What I call the current iteration of what Disney's producing.
the latest strategy
from 2015 to present, what they're putting into the movies and what they're getting out of them worldwide. So if we look at that chart, this shouldn't be any surprise, both in terms of number of films and amount of money, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they put just over $2 billion into from a budget perspective, but I mean, it's made over $13 billion. Obviously, nothing needs to be said to the success there. Then you've got Star Wars, which has generated over about $4.8 billion, just over $1 billion in budget. That, again, that factors in Solo. They're still making 5 times as much worldwide off of those movies as they do from the budget. Pixar continues to do well, almost $6 billion off of a combined budget for all of those movies of $1.3 billion. Disney Animation, which is not incredibly prolific. It's had just 3 movies since 2015. You got Moana, Ralph Breaks the Internet, or Ralph Breaks the Internet. It should be whatever.
It should be Rex, but it's Breaks.
And Zootopia, $485 million budgets. That's raked in about $2.1 billion. And then the live action remakes have been a huge cash influx. They've made almost $6 billion in global grosses off of just $1 billion in budget investments. However, if we could pull that chart up really quickly for just a second, that last category, originals and sequels. So these are a new IP and then sequels to existing IP that fall outside of these, different buckets. So look at that. First of all, look at the gross. It's just over $2 billion. And it's, we talked so many times about how much you need to make. You can't just make the budget back. You've got to make it back 2 or 3 times.
Sure.
It's struggling to make money, essentially. When you look at the movies, sequels to earlier remakes, original or new ventures, some of these movies that are in that bucket that have cost Disney money, and not just a little money, some of them a lot of money, include Tomorrowland, the BFG, Wrinkle in Time, Alice Through the Looking Glass, which was a sequel to a massively successful live-action remake or follow-up or whatever you want to call it of Alice in Wonderland, Nutcracker and the Four Realms. All of those were big money losers for Disney.
Not enough realms.
Christopher Robin and not enough realms. We've talked about this in the show. More realms. 7 realms.
8 to 11 realms.
8 to 11 realms. Christopher Robin and Mary Poppins Returns, moderate successes. Not money losers, but didn't blow the doors off of the place. And then if you look at these movies, just one of them, which was Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, did more than triple its budget.
And that's the 5th entry in a long-standing popular franchise.
And even though it did $700+ million, it's still, that one is still widely believed to have A, underperformed compared to the predecessors, and B, sort of brought an end to that franchise. So if you're sitting on the top of the tower and you see the dragon of Disney flying toward you and you're looking for that scale where the arrow might pierce it.
Sure. to use a Hobbit metaphor.
To use an extended Hobbit metaphor, because they're all classics. That is where Disney consistently is showing that they're not just moderating their success. They're taking some big losses and some big hits and sustained.
Yeah.
Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, their animation brand, obviously with Frozen 2, that number's going to go, I think, way up when you look at it. The live action remakes now are pretty dependable.
Yeah.
All doing fine. But where Disney could be in some trouble if one or more of those things starts to take a decline is that in the last 4 to 5 years, they've really struggled with original concepts, or even a lot of times following up with sequels to movies that have been successful. Alice in Wonderland, a massive success. Alice Through the Looking Glass, not so much.
I think it's interesting when you look at something like Disney Plus. Disney Plus last week, they did that big promotional push of like all day they tweeted every movie and show that's going to be on Disney Plus. And you couldn't help but notice that in the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s, it was kind of grim. There was a lot of movies people haven't really heard about a lot, or the Shaggy DA and the Apple Dumpling Gang and all that kind of stuff.
I will not, with Tim Conway and Don
I'm not saying they're terrible.
Right?
Yes, it is Don. I'm not even saying those movies are terrible. I loved a lot of those movies growing up. But they're not the dominant thing that we think of being today for Disney, and this is even coming up pretty recently, the 90s, even the early aughts. And so, yeah, I mean, they've had this huge success, but a lot of it is on content that they're buying, that they're saying, like, we want Star Wars, we want Pixar, we want Marvel. It's not necessarily coming from in-house. When things come from in-house, they're hit or miss like any other studio.
Yeah, I mean, they're a helicarrier, and they got a bunch of engines, and right now, like, 5 out of 6 of those engines are fine. But if 1 or 2 of those starts to blow out, and then you've got this bum engine in the back a little bit, you may start worrying about losing a little altitude.
It would be interesting, and I'm not, you're the mind behind charting, but it would be interesting to look at the movies based on rides, because that's an ongoing thing. Movies based on existing attractions and IP, and I feel like they've been really all over the place.
Well, Pirates of the Caribbean skews the whole thing because you forget that Country Bears had a movie and
the Haunted Mansion had a movie. Now we've got Jungle Cruise on the horizon and Tomorrowland. Like that seems like it would be really reliable for them, but it's every new project you're kind of starting from scratch.
Disney's acquisitions, obviously, they acquired smartly in acquiring Marvel and acquiring Star Wars and acquiring Pixar. And now sort of reinventing their old films. I think in a lot of ways they're sort of putting a smokescreen over the fact that outside of those things, they're having a little bit of trouble innovating.
Well, I mean, they're human. It's like it's like they're mortal, like all the executives from Warner Brothers and Universal and Paramount. You could look at those teams and be like, these guys aren't churning out what Disney's doing. It's like, well, Disney inherited a lot of that from these deals that they've made that have nothing to do with the development people working on the ground. Those are the people making Wrinkle in Time and Tomorrowland.
I think that Walt Disney Animation is actually maybe the most impressive of these three, just because all 3 of those films were, with Moana, with Zootopia, with Ralph Breaks the Internet, I think were critical hits,
and
audience hits,
big hits,
and we're not, inside of these bigger universes. These were all sort of done in the old way of just like those self-contained films, and we'll see how Frozen 2 does. But if you're looking for a little bit of a small defect with Disney, I think this week of a Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, again, $185 million they invested into that project, which we'll look at the global number in a second, maybe another sort of miscalculation, because they're budgeting these movies just like they're budgeting Marvel films and Star Wars films, and they're not paying off the way those other films are. So we'll see what happens. Disney's fine. Don't get me.
They're fine. I mean, it's also the way to look at it is, they may not make their Maleficent money back on the box office on this one, but they have a lot more opportunities to cash in on people who like Maleficent and people who want to buy things that are Maleficent.
Exactly.
All of these things live on in perpetuity as intellectual property for them.
They do. It'll be on Disney Plus and whatever it's.
Let's
look at the rest of the top 5 for the weekend here domestically here in North America. Joker dropped off less than 50% again to hold on to the number 2 spot.
He's doing great, man.
It should pass the unadjusted grosses of 1989's Batman and Man of Steel in the next week. Zombieland Double Tap managed to shake the all too frequent curse of the decade-plus later comedy sequel. General critical approval, or at least not a bad response. And most of the times you get a bad response. Good box office launch. If you look at the numbers, unadjusted for inflation, it opened about $2 million higher than the original Zombieland. But even once you adjust for inflation, the original was only about $2 million more It opened almost identically, which is rare. Usually you see a huge drop off, but the original Zombieland also not a $90 million opening thing.
Sort of a little bit more of a sleeper that's definitely found an audience on streaming, on home video, like has had a long time for more people to see it.
And looking at the budget, they did not do what a lot of times they do with these sequels, which is they did not pour all of the money into the sequel. It had a nice budget, but it was not $80 million.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too was probably paying, like when they first had to pay Jesse Eisenberg and Emma Stone, and it wasn't quite as bad.
You're not paying Oscar money.
Yeah, today you got to really make it worth their while.
In at number 4, Addams Family. It dropped 46% to come in 4th place, and then Gemini Man, after a not great start last week, 60% drop in week 2 to come in 5th. So whatever dim hopes it might have had on the domestic front were extinguished this week, and then we'll discuss what it did worldwide later on. Spoiler alert, the news is not great there either, but we'll get into that. But let's look, before we go to the world, let's look at the top per theater. And, when you talk about a filmmaker with a consistent and passionate fan base, you got to talk about Kevin Smith, because Jay and Silent Bob Reboot this past week had a Fathom event that happened 2 nights during the week, so it wouldn't count for the weekend box office. However, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot had 1 show in Asbury Park, New Jersey over the weekend. That was enough to get the top spot in the per theater average in just that venue for the weekend, $93,520. That's the second best per theater number of the year. Again, when you're pouring it all into one venue, it's his home state.
And he was there. Kevin and Jason were there. Not to underline, great achievement. Congratulations for those guys.
It's not just a screening.
But it's a road show. You pay to go out and see the guys and watch the movie with the people who made the movie. Yeah. Kevin and Jason, obviously famous for their banter.
Yeah.
So I think that obviously that definitely helps.
This was actually not just for that film, but which has grossed over $1 million with that and the Fathom event combined already. For the per theater average, this was a crazy bananas weekend. This was an insane weekend.
Yeah, we're kicking off the Oscars.
Last week, Lon, we looked at the top 5 per theater numbers for the year. There were 2 films that already changed that chart this past weekend. So looking at that, we had Parasite, which was the number 1 movie that set the mark last week. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, as I mentioned, is the second best number of the year there, which knocks The Farewell down to 3. It knocks Avengers Endgame down to 4. But Jojo Rabbit from Taika Waititi did almost $70,000 in 5 theaters. That would easily top the chart on just about any other weekend. It just so happened that Jay and Silent Bob Reboot had that 1 show that posted a great number. But still, Jojo Rabbit, a really strong start, one of the 5 best per theater averages of the year there. But that doesn't even stop there, because there's another movie that was in 8 theaters that did just over $50,000 per theater, which again, any other weekend, easily the top per theater average. And that one was from A24, starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse getting a lot of buzz going in. Again, any other weekend, that would be number 1, but it was 3rd in the per theater average, but still over 50K per theater in 8 theaters. People really buzzing about that movie. I haven't had a chance to see it.
I want to see that. I have it. It's from the Witch director. It's his follow.
Yeah, but even so, even on top of that, you had Parasite in week 2, taking in over $37,000 per theater in 33 theaters, which again, any other weekend would easily be number 1. It was 3 times the average for the other films. So limited release films having a fantastic weekend. Parasite writing a lot of buzz from the past couple of weeks. Jojo Rabbit, obviously.
These are big festival movies that film fans have been hearing about for months now. And finally, if you live in one of the 2 or 3 big cities where those movies open, you can go check it out.
Well, I can say I have not yet seen Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Was not able to do the Fathom event. I have seen Parasite, which I love, Jojo Rabbit, which I loved. You can see reviews for both of those here on this channel. And The Lighthouse, I really very much want to see. I was traveling this weekend and did not get a chance to see that film.
It's here. It's at the Landmark and ArcLight.
Yeah. I'm really hoping to get a chance to see it soon, because I love those 2 actors, and it looks like the most A24 thing.
Yeah, just as soon as I was like, it's all written in like salty nautical 19th century jargon, I was like, I have to go see that. Well, how am I not going to see that?
Let's look at from one theater in Asbury Park, New Jersey, we are going to the entire world. Let's look at the top 5 worldwide grossing films. The same film, number one, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, grossed $153 million. Now, that does take the sting off its domestic release just a little bit. As I mentioned, it had a budget around $185 million. However, and there's an asterisk here, this was a full day-and-date release for Disney, including China, where it didn't exactly blow the doors off the place. So that's not a bad, that's not a terrible debut, but at the same time, there are no other markets that are coming and swoop and add 10 or 20 or $30 million. So again, with a budget as high as $185 million, adding on top of that promotion and advertising, it's really got to sustain well worldwide to get to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to say, but that character it feels Western to me. Like when we get these movies from China where it's like, well, it's about a demon and a god and a ghost who are very well known in Chinese folklore. But that doesn't mean anything to American audiences. I almost feel like it's the same. Well, but then you see Venom took off, and so what do I know?
But Venom is about Venom, and they're selling Venom, and that's what you get. It's 90% Venom. I think for me, even watching the movie, and when you're talking about people recommending people to go see it, Angelina Jolie is what you need to be selling with that movie, and she is like. She's like the third or fourth most important thing happening in that film. Wow. And I think that for people, they're just like, well, hang on. Like, what are you doing? Like, I came here to see Maleficent, the Mistress of Evil.
Not the ongoing Sleeping Beauty saga.
Yeah, it was like trying to world build the Sleeping Beauty universe. I just think it was a bit of a miscalculation.
The Beautyverse.
For Disney. At number 2, Joker took in another $100 million plus worldwide in its third weekend.
People love that Joker.
They love that Joker. And it is getting ready to set a new mark because while it has not entered the top 5 domestically for R-rated films, this week Joker is set up to become the highest grossing R-rated film ever worldwide. Right now it sits about $50 million off the mark of Deadpool 2, which currently holds the record. If you look at that top 5, followed by the original Deadpool, Matrix Reloaded, there you see Joker at number 4 and It at number 5. Now, Deadpool 2, there's a little controversy because that includes the Once Upon a Deadpool re-release, but I just can't, it's hard to parse. I don't know. It's officially, they're counting it, so either way, Joker's going to pass it this week.
Yeah.
It will become the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time worldwide in just a number of days. WB owns 3 of those. Matrix Reloaded, Joker, It, and then the 2 Deadpool films also in there. So Joker going to take that crown for R-rated films. Pretty crazy, huh?
There you go. I would not have predicted that a few months ago.
No. I thought it would do well, but this is a phenomenally successful.
It's such a idiosyncratic movie. I mean, it is sort of so of itself, and yet it's translated around the world.
It got the one thing that you can't buy and you can't manufacture, which is genuine buzz and interest from people. So we'll also keep tracking how it does domestically as far as the top 5 R-rated films. I'm sure it'll probably settle somewhere in the top 5. If it keeps holding this well, I mean, it's making huge gains from week to week.
And it doesn't feel like it's died down. I still feel like the parodies are coming out. People are still talking about it. Just today,
about it.
I saw a whole Twitter thread about the dancing on the stairs scene and different interpretations of it. I was saying we were at LA Comic-Con last week, and I saw 3 kids. These are not total, just children dressed up like Arthur Fleck.
That's
3 children.
That's disturbing. That for me would be like seeing an 8-year-old dressed as Hannibal Lecter. I'm like,
yeah, no, it's like a bunch of, and they're unmistakably Joaquin Phoenix joke.
Oh yeah,
it was not like you can't. There's no missing it.
People love Joker.
They love
any
Joker.
version of the Joker, except for one. I won't say which one.
We all know.
Jared Leto. Okay, let's look at the rest of the top 5 for the world. Gemini Man. Oh man, Lon. They were hoping for a big China bump. They were hoping for China to come and swoop and save the day. That did not happen. China was number 2 at the Chinese box office, behind Maleficent. I was reading some reports today that says it's in line to take a loss of up to $75 million. So not going to be a big hit for Will Smith and Ang Lee. Zombieland Double Tap. That's largely its domestic release, a little bit from the foreign there. And then, Lon, we've talked about this all year. Japan now starting to more regularly export their anime to China, and the Chinese market is showing a great interest in those films. As a matter of fact, One Piece Stampede was competing for the number 1 spot at the Chinese box office this weekend, didn't quite make it, but still Another good opening for a Japanese anime film in China. That came out in Japan back in August. It hits U.S. screens this week.
Yeah, I feel like just as we're seeing it hit China, this is going to start happening in the U.S., where more and more there is, for years and years now, decades, on VOD, on streaming, we've been building this massive generational fan base for anime, and I it's hard for me to believe we're not already at the point where if you started putting regularly anime films in theaters, especially popular, well-known brands or things that were already adapted into shows.
Yeah.
I think those are going to just keep doing better and better in this.
Well, and things like One Piece and Dragon Ball and all this stuff, you're building up over the years now a library of a franchise that people can go back and watch, and then now the new one becomes an event because you can go back and catch up. And I agree, we're seeing that happen more and more. But the Chinese market really embracing more and more anime from
because now you'll see it if it's like, okay, there's a new Dragon Ball movie and that's a huge franchise, so that'll open in a few theaters in America. And I just think we'll start to see more titles, more variety of that kind of stuff making.
Dragon Ball Z Super, I think, was a huge hit earlier this year.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had like My Hero Academia. Like, there's always one or two based on these whatever like the big most popular current shows are. And I just think, it'll start to diversify more and more.
Let's look at the 2019 domestic list. We had a little bit of movement. Guess what movie it was? Joker jumps up one spot over it. It was already up, jumps up over it this week. $247 million. We'll see if we can get up there to Aladdin, although that's a chunk of change. But this movie has had staying power. It's at number 7 domestically.
It may also get... It's worth mentioning now, it's buzzy.
Oscar bump.
There may be an awards bump.
It's
I feel like
possible.
Joaquin's seems very likely to get nominated.
Yeah.
The score, the cinematography. I think we may see Joker through the end of the year is going to stay in the conversation.
Absolutely a possibility. Also making a movement on the 2019 worldwide charts, it jumps over a pair of Chinese films that came out earlier this year, The Wandering Earth and Ne Zha. It is now at number 8. It's going to outgross Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, it's going to catch Hobbs and Shaw.
Who would have thought at the beginning of the year that the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie would outgross the Vin Diesel... not Vin Diesel.
How dare you.
Oh, I've been banned from all future Fast and Furious
You saw the
events.
Bloodshot trailer. And
the Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham team-up buddy movie.
I think The Rock and Joaquin Phoenix are in a feud now.
Are they? Are they feuding? I think I've got The Rock in
be a
there.
ridiculous
I don't know. Joaquin
feud.
Phoenix can be kind of scary, though.
That's true.
So it's got Hobbs and Shaw in its sights. However, again, that $1 billion mark would be the next stop for it.
Who knows?
Who knows? All bets are off.
I wouldn't count it out.
Yeah.
Not at this point.
Salon, that's the box office picture. But of course, we have another important piece of business to do, which is the Meowtdown to Cats. Lon, we are a mere 61 days away from the release of Cats. 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
2 short months away from the release of Cats. Nationwide. I can't wait. If you have been watching the show over the last several weeks, you know that we're not just counting down to Cats. We are performing a service both for you and for us to give you a little primer. There's a lot of cats in this movie. That's why they named it Cats.
There's a ton.
It's called Cats because there's a bunch of cats.
Yeah.
And so we decided to introduce you to a new cat each week. Now, this is a big one. This is perhaps the star that has attracted the most social media attention of anyone involved in the cast, because we're going to talk Tay-Tay.
Yeah.
We are talking about Bombalurina, who is the cat to be played by Taylor Swift in the version of Cats. Bombalurina, a flirtatious cat with a signature red coat. She's best known for her song introducing McCavity the Mystery Cat, who we talked about on the show before.
So she has a song that introduces somebody else.
That appears to be the main function for almost every Cats character that I've researched so far.
That's a tough pitch to make to Taylor Swift. Your big song, and he's going to be introducing that guy.
Well, she's a key role. See, here's the thing. She may not have a lot of character. She may have less characterization. She's kind of flirty. Mm-hmm. The male cats love her.
Sure.
She's kind of, they call her the bombshell cat.
Oh, Bombalurina.
Bombalurina.
There
But
you
she
go.
may have less character-wise than someone like an old Deuteronomy, perhaps. But she's a key role because not only is she key in introducing Macavity the mystery cat, she's key in introducing Grisabella. She's key in introducing Bustopher Jones. She's key in Rum Tum Tugger's introduction. From what I've been able to gather, this entire show is only songs introducing other cats.
Right.
And then something happens and it's over. So she's a key role, key singing, key dancing.
Sure.
I think that this may be why they cast Taylor Swift, because you need a performer, a well-rounded performer.
I mean, that's what she does.
So what she lacks in layers of character, she gets in just carrying a lot of the show on her shoulders. But yeah, Bombalurina, the bombshell cat, loved by male cats,
Feared by women?
by others,
Okay, so-
I assume. She's got a red coat.
It looks blonde-ish in the image we saw, but I'll take
Let's
your
see
word
that.
on that.
I think that's
Is
red.
that reddish?
That's red for a cat.
The right definitely looks red.
Well, that's the stage show.
Right. Yes.
I think that's red.
All right, fair
She's got catnip.
I'll go with it.
She's pouring catnip in the trailer.
Yes. Right. She's got that like the bejeweled
Yes.
container of catnip. Yes.
So there you go.
We are only a month away. We need to get a cat's advent calendar, like to we open the days, get a little piece of candy.
I like where you're. I like where you're.
Once
thinking.
we're 30 days out.
Once we're 30 days out,
every day I
we'll
want
have
to
an
open a
advent
little
calendar.
door where there's a little
The
Macavity.
Kit Macavity mystery cat.
get a
Yeah.
little chocolate.
We'll put that on the list of things to do. The cat's advent calendar.
There you
Once we
go.
hit 30 days, we got a month to prepare it. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we
we got
do
a
that.
month. Somebody will build that for us.
So there you go. It's a little short, but the character seems to be a little short. Despite being a key role, it's more of just expository.
She's introducing
personality.
a bunch of people. Well,
Yeah.
she's obviously not going to die and go to the heaven side, whatever. The
heavy side layer?
Heavy side layer. She's too young and vibrant. So
But sometimes that's the most tragic.
Oh, that's
Perhaps she's a tragic character. I'm not one to say. But yeah,
I don't know. I legitimately don't know how.
there you go. Tay-Tay,
I can't
Taylor
blow it
Swift
for you.
herself, set to play Bombalurina. Who will we meet next week? I don't know because I don't know any of the other cats. That's why
we've
do
run
this
through
week.
every cat I can name. Easily.
There are so many more.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. Juan, this week at the theaters, there are 3 movies hitting in wide release. And after kind of a steady stream of big limited release films and big studio films, it slows down a little bit. No offense to any of these movies, but they're not quite at the profile that some of the other ones have been. We've got Black and Blue coming out, which is a crime drama starring Naomi Harris, Mike Coulter, and Frank Grillo. We've got Countdown, which I don't know if you've seen the trailer. It is about a killer app.
Yeah.
It tells you when you die, and then when the countdown hits 0, you die.
You die. It's like, you know.
There you go.
You program in when you saw The Ring, and then it calculates for you
Yeah.
how long until you die.
And then there is a movie that's got a
I shouldn't
really.
make fun. I know one of the actresses in that movie.
Oh,
I
do
shouldn't
you?
make fun.
Well, that's fine. I mean, come on, it's a killer app movie.
She knows it's silly.
And then there's a movie that's got a really interesting story coming out this week called,
yeah.
and I had to look up why it was called this. It's called The Current War Director's Cut, and that's like the name of the movie, The Current War Director's Cut. And the reason
Always a
why
good sign.
is that this is a movie about Edison and Tesla.
Right.
It's got Tom Holland, Benedict Cumberbatch, Nicholas Hoult, Michael Shannon.
When this first was getting made, this was like, it's going to be
This
an
was
Oscar
a big,
movie.
yeah, this is a big movie. It debuted in Toronto back in 2017. One problem, it was the edit for the film was being overseen in 2017 by Harvey Weinstein and the Weinstein Company. Obviously, a lot of stuff came out about Harvey Weinstein that sort of put the brakes on anything involved with that company, including this movie. Then when the company was liquidating, it sold the rights to the movie, et cetera, et cetera. 2 years later, here we are, it's coming out. But the reason it's called The Current War Director's Cut, I believe, number one, they want to make sure that people know that this is not Harvey Weinstein's cut of the movie. This is the director getting control of the film again. So yeah, this could be an interesting. This has been a very interesting journey to the screen for this film. An awards contender 2 years ago, derailed by the Harvey Weinstein scandal. Now getting a release, but
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because usually when a movie is held up by a lot of like slowdowns or problems. It relates to the quality of the movie.
Yeah.
But in this case, it really is things that were mostly external to the movie.
Yeah.
It could be a great movie.
It could
really
be.
Don't know.
I mean, I haven't looked up and seen the reviews that it got in 2017 after it debuted in Toronto.
Right.
Obviously, very shortly thereafter, everything just sort of took a back seat.
Yeah, you weren't able to see it.
Yeah. So, and then it was caught up in just all this legal wrangling and liquidation,
And I think there was also, even if you could have maybe released it at some point, nobody wanted
it's
to release.
radioactive.
Nobody wanted to release a movie that had the Weinstein Company anywhere associated with it.
Right. So it is a circuitous route to the screen. Ends this weekend, the current war. So check that out if you so desire. And then, of
Edison
course,
head.
as we mentioned, movies like Parasite and Jojo Rabbit and The Lighthouse that are already in limited release will be extending and opening wider. So if you're in a larger city, your Phoenixes of the world, perhaps your St. Louis's, these movies might start getting near you. I hope so, because they're movies that deserve to be seen by everybody, I think. And The Lighthouse is one that deserves to be seen by me, hopefully very soon. Lon, that's all I got today.
Good show.
Good show.
Good show, I
The
thought.
studio's still standing. That's
still
always
here.
a good sign. Thanks for watching Charting with Dan. Lon, anything you want to plug?
No, just follow me on Twitter at LONS. That's the best way to find me.
Follow Lon on Twitter at LONS. Thank you for watching. If you want to check out something that's sort of the opposite of this show, meaning just a bunch of fun, you can watch Power Levels over on the Screen
That's
Junkies
right,
channel. Pikachu versus Electro.
People were giving us crap because Electro, they were like, is not a character on the level in popularity terms of Pikachu. But that's not what that show's about.
Right.
It's about
It's not a popularity contest.
right. It's about
power.
Who has the greater electrical current?
Well, I'm shocked that people found something to be angry about.
I know, on the internet, nonetheless.
On the internet, nonetheless. It's a fun show.
It's a very fun show, and it really, we get real deep into the science.
Yeah. And also check out, I'm sure there are links, if not on this video, on plenty of other videos. Speaking of Fathom events, which Jane Silent Bob Reboot had, our Galaxy Quest documentary has a Fathom event coming up in November. You can see it hopefully in a theater near you.
Yeah, November 26th, my birthday.
Yeah, check it out. It's going to be Lon's birthday. You can also find tickets and everything else.
Yeah.
If the link is not in the description below, you can check out the trailer, which is on the Screen Junkies main channel, or just about any other video that we've done.
Yeah.
And find that information there.
It's really fun. It's a
It
good
is fun.
movie.
I really
Yeah.
like it. I'm biased, obviously, but I enjoy it.
I didn't help
and
make
I like
it,
Galaxy
so
Quest.
trust me, it's good.
Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another cat and even more here on Fandom Entertainment. Till next time, thanks for watching.